Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Pensacola. It has been my pleasure to watch you wander in and be confused by the table arrangements. It's been delightful to shake up things a little bit. I think that's what's happening in total. Let's shake it up a little. If you are new, welcome. It will not look like this next week probably, or maybe it will. If you are returning and have returned many times back to our community, it is wonderful to have you here. And I invite you to think of one person of our community that may not be here today, that would like to be here, but for other reasons is unable to be here. And just take a moment to think about that person. If you are new, hopefully you were able to receive one of these brochures. We hand out the colored ones so that we look good, but we ask you to take with you the non-color ones so that we can pass this one out to the next person to look good. So in all fairness, we are really doing it for conservation and awareness of what it takes to give back to our planet in a healthy way. We have a couple of announcements. I'm not sure I told you who I was. I'm Nancy Hagman, and I'm a member of this church. We do, if you're here for the first time, we do have a lunch after this, which is not always the case, so stay. We have a potato bar, potluck, after service, so please stay, eat. We're going to bring out some games and have fun. And Mary Beth, who is in charge of our fun and fellowship, she is the ultimate of fun. And the food will be served in the conference room, and then you're welcome to come back here and eat. Our CRE program is wanting to honor graduates of all sorts, of all levels. So if you know someone that you would like to have honored on August the 11th, either in name or presence, if you would let Honor know. Honor is the CRE coordinator, and Honor is usually at the back table greeting children when they come in, and will be here after service as well. You also can email to CRE Pensacola, and Honor will get that message. I'm sure they're, oh, I love it. I love it. Sometimes we just need to scream. Now we're going to have chalice lighting words. And our speaker is going to light the chalice. We light this chalice not because we must, but because we may. We light this chalice not because we have the truth, but because we each come bearing and seeking many truths. We light this chalice in connection across culture, distance, class, and language. We light this chalice that our religion may be a beacon of light, hope, and justice. We light this chalice to kindle our hearts and our minds. By Louis Van Leer. And our opening words are by Frederick Ozanam. Knowledge of the poor and needy is not gained by poring over books or in discussions with politicians, but by visiting the slums where they live, sitting by the bedside of the dying, feeling the cold that they feel, and learning from their lips the causes of their woes. And now, if you will join me in our covenant, if you will stand, and we will follow that with an opening hymn. And we'll say the covenant together. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And the choir will come up, and while they do, you can look for words for this song. It's called We Are an Ocean. The words will be on the slides, but they are also on the table in paper format. And we can now sing the children out with Michael Kilmer. Go now in peace, go now in peace, may the Spirit of God surround you everywhere. Such a joy to watch them trickle out and take a parent with them and bring them back. Yes. This is a time that we honor our church by helping to finance our congregation. But today, it's the 5th Sunday, even though you didn't know that. June in the 5th Sunday, Michael was unable to come. So we asked him to pretend that today is our 5th Sunday. So Michael is here today representing his nonprofit, and we support a nonprofit every 5th Sunday that occurs. So today, pretend this is the 5th Sunday for his organization. And the baskets will be passed, and the money will be shared with Michael, who is the director of the Alfred-Washburn Center. He's the co-founder and director of Sean's Outpost and Satochi Forest, organizer with food, not bombs, and on the board of directors of the Trinity House and the 309 Punk Project. Now, I'm not real sure how he found time to be here on time on a Sunday morning, but he is. And did we pass we can pass them now. If Michael Kilmer will play some music for us, that would be great. Thanks. I've already introduced you to Michael Kimberl. I'm hoping that the slide actually has his correct name on it. Hey! We do an outline every week of the service in paper form, and it's wrong on this outline, but it's right on the PowerPoint, so score. Michael is not new to many Unitarians. He walked in the door and immediately not only knows many people, but people have come because he's here. And we welcome Michael Kimberl to the stage.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much. I am Michael Kimberl. For those expecting to hear Mike Kilmer, you are getting to hear him as well. But I was telling Nancy that this happens quite often. We have a lot of mutual friends, and on numerous occasions, I have had people cash out me money and then send me a message being like, "Can you send that money back? That wasn't meant for you. That was meant for Mike." And so it's a very common mistake. I am the director of the Alfred-Washburn Center, which is a day center here in Pensacola for people who are experiencing poverty and homelessness. We see about 150 to 200 people a day. Recently, it's been closer to the 200, almost on a daily basis. But what we do there is we provide a place for people to come and take a shower, do a load of laundry, set up a mailbox service to get mail delivered. We do sack lunches. We give out hygiene supplies. We have a weekly clothes closet. We do tents, tarps, and sleeping bags for people so they can have some form of shelter. And we do all of this free of charge. And we do all of this with a volunteer base. And so there is me and one other person that receive a paycheck, and everyone else that's there is there out of the kindness of their heart. I tell our clients often when they're getting rowdy that, you know, these people could be sitting on a beach drinking Mai Tais, and instead they're here to help y'all. And so it's an amazing place. I guess it was opened in 2000, but my involvement wasn't until 2014. I was running my own nonprofit called Sean's Outpost, and we had purchased 9 acres of land and had set up an intentional homeless community there. We have tents and tarps, and we provide amenities such as portalets, running water, garbage pickup. And all of our residents there utilize the Alfred-Washburn Center for mail delivery, showers, laundry. And in 2014, they were the victims of arson. Some people jumped the fence and burnt the building down. And we, being a sister organization, stepped up to be like, hey, how can we, help y'all out through these trying times? And I fell in love with the place and started volunteering 1 day a week. And about 6 years ago was offered the directorship, which of course I said no. I don't need to be running another nonprofit on top of the nonprofit that I'm already running. But the more I thought about it and speaking with other directors, I ended up taking the position. And as I said, I've been doing it about 6 years now. And it is definitely a labor of love. We see people from all walks of life that come through. I say often that our center is just as important for our volunteers as it is for the people coming for the services. People come from a place of what I call financial privilege and have preconceived notions of what our homeless community is made up of. And our center has a wonderful way of turning all of those preconceived notions on its head and have you walking away shocked at how many different walks of life are affected by homelessness. It probably touches every single one of us in some way, shape, or form. Someone that we know has probably dealt with it. And it touches people from the richest to the poorest, all religions, denominations, ethnic backgrounds, and the deeper you fall into homelessness, the harder it is to get out of. I tend to work with what they call the chronically homeless, which is a subset of homelessness of people that have experienced homelessness for over a year or repeated bouts of homelessness on and off, and have a really difficult time getting out of the situation. When people first come to the Alfred-Washburn Center, they quite often look like a deer in headlights. They're shocked, they're scared, they don't know what to expect or even where to go. I think a lot of times people set up a disaster plan for hurricanes, but we never set up a disaster plan for impoverishment. And so they don't know where the service centers are, they don't know where the shelters are, what the qualifiers for shelters, what programs are available. And so we will take people into the office and talk to them for a while and find out what happened, what are their goals and aspirations, what are they looking to accomplish, and then we try to connect them with those service providers. Unfortunately, it is very limited what is available in our community. I think often we hear politicians say that our poor are choosing not to get assistance, or that there are plenty of services available in our community, and as someone that works daily in this field, like there's not. But we try to get people to the best suited places for them and what they're trying to accomplish in life. I think quite often a lot of agencies will tell people what they need to do, and we try to find out what are people trying to do and help them do what they're trying to do instead of telling them what they need to be doing. Trying to think. I'm not really good at time, so how am I doing on time? Okay, so what time did I start talking? I'm going to try to time myself now. Like I probably should have started doing that at the beginning. How long have I been on? Okay. So the Alfred-Washburn Center has grown quite a bit over the years. So when I first became director, I would talk to one of the previous directors who used to come in and do the mail, and he would talk about how a busy day up at the center was 30 people. And that has never been my experience at the center. Like I said, it's 150 to 200 people a day. We'll have 60 people waiting at the gates for us before we even open in the mornings. We are seeing a massive increase with the housing crisis that we have seen in our community. I have been seeing it affecting people that we didn't previously see affected by homelessness. And so I fear that we're going to see things get a lot worse before they get better. And one of the ways that I think that's going to be happening is with the new laws that have been passed in the state of Florida, coupled with the newest Supreme Court ruling on the what we call the grants pass case. And so I'll go into some of that. So in the state of Florida, we passed a new law that come October 1st will criminalize sleeping on public land. That includes sidewalks, parks, any property owned by government. And what it also is calling for is the option of communities to start providing campgrounds for people who are experiencing homelessness. Unfortunately, when we ask what that's going to look like, we are getting silent from local officials. The best that I have heard has been that they are going to try to model them off the detention camps along the US-Mexican border, which is going to be disastrous. We were really hopeful that the Supreme Court was going to overturn that in its recent ruling when it was seeing what we call the grants pass case. And in that case, basically what a judge had ruled was that it is cruel and unusual punishment to arrest someone experiencing homelessness if there was no place to provide for them to go. And unfortunately, they have overturned that. The Supreme Court has ruled that essentially homelessness is not a protected class of people, and that it is not cruel and unusual to force them to move along. The only trying to get inside their heads, I assume they are thinking that the tough love technique will get people to get up off their feet and pull themselves up by their bootstraps, but we're talking about a population of people who don't have bootstraps to pull themselves up by. And I can't tell you the amount of times that I've sat across the room from someone that has come before me and tell me a story of how they fell into homelessness, and it was something that had happened to me. The only difference between me and the person across from me is that I had a support system and a network that I could fall back on, and they didn't, and so they fell into homelessness. And I think basically far too often in our society we point fingers at the poor for their position, and when most often it's our bad policies and our mistakes that are leading them into homelessness. There are, of course, those exceptions to the rules, but from my experience, every time you hear some negative thing about homelessness, it tends to be a very minute subsect of a population. I think often when we say the word homelessness, we think of the panhandler, which the panhandler makes up roughly 10% of our homeless population in our community. And so our 10% is making up 90% of our perception and our basis for making laws governing this subset of a population. And that's what we're seeing with these new laws that are coming into effect. And I honestly don't have any positive information as to what we're going to do because we don't know what it's going to look like. And so we're kind of, getting ourselves ready for anything. Worst case scenarios, we'll be building an underground railroad to help hide people so they won't be picked up for walking with a book bag or for, being caught homeless. We've seen that in other communities across the country, and it doesn't look good. I think it was San Antonio that had an entire homeless population living in their sewers to avoid being caught and taken to the facilities that they had put in place. And so these facilities are not always for everybody. They are constantly infested with different bugs like bed bugs and things like that. They dehumanize people a lot of times by making them come in almost a delousing process before they are allowed to integrate with others. And I understand the cleanliness aspects of that, but it also is very dehumanizing to run people through something like that just to have a nice place to sleep at night. In our area, we have a lot of facilities that force religious views upon people, and because of that, they choose not to go to those facilities, and then we punish them for not going to the facilities that we have available. And so it's difficult to find that silver lining in there, but that silver lining is that we have a wonderful network of mutual aid in our community, places like the Alfred-Washburn Center, Sean's Outpost, Food Not Bombs, that are all doing things to combat this in different ways. And so, for example, Food Not Bombs, for those that are unaware, it is an arm of the anti-war movement. We have been doing a food sharing at Martin Luther King Plaza since 2011, every Friday evening at 6 p.m. It is essentially a potluck. Just show up with a vegan, vegetarian dish and join us. We see about 80 people. Anyone is welcome to come to that. We have the Alfred-Washburn Center that is always accepting volunteers. We need about 15 to 20 people a day, preferably. Some days we're operating the facility with 5 people, seeing 200 people, and it can be quite a juggling act. And then we also have Sean's Outpost, that is the campground. And then there's other agencies as well. I'm just here to talk about mine, so I'm not trying to sound like I'm the only guy in town. There are some wonderful grassroots organizations that do some wonderful work in our community. And with that, do I go to questions? Like, do we have a question and answer session, or Nancy? We can? Okay. I didn't know. I like back and forth way better than I like presenting. And so
I did have one question.
Yes.
That was posed to me before, and that was, if you had unlimited resources, where would you start?
So, if I had unlimited resources, unlimited resources, the easy answer would be that I would provide housing. That is the number one thing we need in our community, is housing. And I'm a proponent for free housing as well. Like I think that, like we have a minimum wage, we should have a minimum living standard that we accept in our society, and I think homelessness is unacceptable. And so I think a lot of times that the problems that we have with people on the street are problems that we all have, except we get to hide behind our closed doors. And so if we gave them a door to hide behind, we wouldn't have the problems that we currently have. Not saying that the people don't have problems, but the problems aren't in our face. And then they also we're able to address whatever their issues are and know where to find them. But in the short term, what I would see would be putting in a series of almost like emergency care centers that we see around our community, but they would be a place that would have maybe 10 beds in it. People could come in, quickly be stabilized, assessed. They would stay there for a few days during that stabilization period and assessment, and then be transferred to whatever agency best suited them. But for that to work, we would have to have that back of house, that all those agencies in place that provided those services for people. But that would be the short term and long term what I would do with unlimited funds.
Do you see many children?
I do and don't. So the facilities that
Hang on just a second. Can you repeat the question?
yes, I would be more than happy
Just
to.
repeat the question.
So she asked if I see many children, and the answer is a yes and no. So I do encounter children on the street, but all of the agencies that I'm involved with do not allow children. For one reason or another. So the Alfred-Washburn Center, it's an insurance thing that our yearly insurance would double if we allowed people under the age of 18. And it's already quite expensive. I was kind of shocked when I first saw it. And then for the Sean's Outpost or Satochi Forest, the campground, depending on which DCF agent would happen to come out, there's a high risk of removing the children from the household. And so to prevent that from happening, we work really hard to not have families hit the streets. There's a couple of facilities in town that focus on families, and they pretty much stay at capacity, which kind of shows the need in our community for needing more places for families. But yeah, so it's I probably don't see as many as I would if I was open to working more with children.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Okay, we're going to take 3 or 4 here, and Joe had his hand up first, so.
Okay.
You talked about how some service providers have, religious components where they ask, people who attend to do certain things to show that you are open to that faith or what have you. Could you talk about some of the other kind of limitations, like how many times per week you're able to go to some of these places?
Yeah, some of the barriers, basically.
Yes.
Yeah, so he's asking what other barriers are in place other than like religious barriers that some of these facilities have. So some of the facilities are dry in the sense that like you have to blow into a breathalyzer to be able to stay there for the evening. I have heard stories of people being removed from the facility simply for not calling someone by their proper name. So like say, for example, they're chaplain Steve and they just go, "Hey Steve, can you help me with this?" They remove them from the facility for not calling them by their proper title. Oh, sorry. Got to learn not to talk with my hands. Some of the other things I've encountered.
Schedule stuff, right?
Say
What
again?
time you need to be there by?
Yeah. So say if you have a nighttime job that puts you past curfew, you would be denied entry into the shelter. And so a lot of people that whose jobs do not coincide with the hours of the shelter are forced to sleep outside. let me see, what are some other?
Costs?
Oh yeah, thank you. You already knew the answer to the question you were asking. And so, yeah, I got put on the spot with that. So, there's cost prohibitive in some cases. So one facility charges, you get 3 nights free, and then after that it's $10 an evening. That facility even spends some of their money to put up billboards saying that panhandlers don't really want help, which I've always found kind of hypocritical because they're panhandling to get the money to stay at the shelter. And then we will also have, let's see, what are some other things? There was something that was on the top of my head right when you mentioned the money.
I was wondering about pets and the effects of mental health.
So those would be 2 other ones as well. So mental health in our community is atrocious. I think the state of Florida is rated 50th in funding for mental health. And so we're the poorest or most unfunded state, and Pensacola is probably going to be the most underfunded municipality of all the cities in the state of Florida, minus like rural communities. And so I could probably give an entire talk just on the atrocities of mental health in our community that I've seen. And then we also have a really bad problem with ADA compliance in Pensacola. So I have seen multiple agencies remove people for being difficult to take care of. And it's heartbreaking. We had the one gentleman who was a paraplegic that also had a slight attitude problem, but they would rotate him around, dumping him on the streets repeatedly, and he would stay on the streets until he got bed sores. Bugs would infest into the sores, causing him to have to go to the hospital to have the bugs removed, and they would heal him. And then he would get released back to the streets and start the process over again. He actually passed away earlier this year, that particular gentleman, but he was in a facility and being very well taken care of.
We'll take 2 more, and we have Georgiana and we have Dolly. And Georgiana, you want to go first, and we'll end with Dolly.
I have a couple questions, that they're short.
Okay, I'll try to
Where is
be short
the
as well.
facility located? Where's Washburn Center located?
Okay.
How large a facility is it? And where did the initial funding come from to create that center?
Okay, those are excellent questions. So the address for the Alfred-Washburn Center is 31 Murphy Lane. It is in the Brent area of town. The closest major intersection is going to be Highway 29 and Brent Lane. We're just about a block south of that intersection, back behind the grocery outlet. The funding for the facility comes from private donors. We accept no state or federal funding. And so it's basically individuals and local businesses that donate to the facility to keep it going. It has grown quite a bit over the years. What was the third point? How large a facility is it? That's a wonderful question. So I don't know the acreage, but it's probably about a 3-acre facility. But a portion of that is parking. We have a large yard with picnic tables that people can, sit at. We have unlimited coffee and donuts, so they're able to, sit and eat some pastries and drink some coffee while they're waiting to be called for shower or their laundry. And so it's a fairly decent sized facility, but I could see the need for more of them spread out around our community.
Thank you. Dolly?
You mentioned that we might be surprised about some of the people who are homeless.
Mm-hmm.
Would you share some examples that we might relate to?
Certainly.
Beings that you're dealing with that might surprise us.
Yeah. So that could get long-winded, but yes. I have had I've had grandmothers come and stay with me that would even have their grandson come and stay in the tent with them on the weekends, thinking that they're just on a camping trip with grandma, but really they were staying the weekend at grandma's house. And I've experienced mothers talking with their children, looking for them and help reunite families. And the parents were just so embarrassed that it had happened to them, they couldn't tell their children, and their children lived in Pensacola, not knowing that their mother was on the streets, just out of embarrassment. Veterans that are out here for numerous reasons, ranging from PTSD to pride to all sorts of different situations. Some people that have been on the streets for so long that they're shell-shocked at rental prices. Yeah, like the working poor is another, a really big one. People that make just enough money to pay for a box and have no money, or living on the streets and have money for experiences. And so they choose to live without rent, but they're able to go see the movies or, go have a nice dinner somewhere. And you would, never know that those people were homeless. You might even let them cut in front of you in line in a grocery store, because they don't look homeless. Those are always kind of the hardest people for us to, because those are the people that we want for our poster, like please let us tell your story, and those are the people like no one needs to know what's happening to me. And it's like, but you would change the paradigm of what people think of, but we respect people's privacy, and so but yeah, I could go on and on about different people that I've encountered, and I hate to do this to you, but I see this gentleman really wants to ask a question, so can we do one more?
Well, my thought was, are you staying afterwards?
I
and
would be
people
more
can-
than happy to stay.
And will you eat potatoes with us?
Maybe. Like that's
What about dessert?
maybe. I'm
Okay.
trying to stay away from
You know what?
sweets.
There are lots of
and-
things to eat,
Yeah,
and you
I'm
pick
sure
and
I will
choose.
nibble.
We have
I
a
will
choice.
gladly
It's
nibble
very
with you.
diverse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Welcome. And Victor can ask his question with you after service, if
Sounds
that's
good.
okay.
I also have business cards on me in case someone just wants to grab a card and call me later if they can't stay. And I also have pamphlets sitting on the table outside of the Alfred-Washburn Center that has a little bit more information on it. Thank y'all so much for y'all's time.
Ask it again, Penny.
How could we help as a congregation? What could we do as a congregation?
That's a good question to ask him after service. That'll be great. Okay, if you can stand, we will draw the circle again very appropriately for this service, and our choir will come up, and then we will stand for closing words.
Circle,
may be seated for closing words. By St. Vincent de Paul. You will find out that charity is a very heavy burden to carry, heavier than the kettle of soup and the fruit basket or a full basket. But you will keep your gentleness and your smile. It is not enough to give soup and bread. This the rich can do. You are the servant of the poor, always smiling and good-humored. They are your masters, terribly sensitive and exacting master you will see, and the uglier and the dirtier they will be, the more unjust and insulting. The more love you give is a must. It is only for your love alone that the poor will forgive you the bread that you give them. Go in peace, and blessed be.